All right, let's continue and talk about how we can view our objects inside of Photoshop. As you can see in the 3D panel, we have a bunch of layers that represent our object. We have our mesh, we have our lights, and we also have these render settings. Now this is important because sometimes you have a very complicated object, and for you to easily move around like so, you might want to knock down the quality while you're working to something like wireframe or to something like vertices. And even better, if you have something that's absolutely insane, like a whole city, you might want to go to bounding box. This gives you a very simple object that updates extremely fast, and then once you're finished getting it exactly where you want it, you can go back to something else, like default. So that's just a few ways that you can work with your objects as far as viewing them and manipulating them. Now, by the way, if you guys are interested in learning 3D animation or modeling, that same technique is also invaluable when you're animating in Lightwave or Maya, for example. You always want to drop your model down to something very simple so that you don't have to have your computer struggling while you're moving your object around. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about how we can get a texture on this object. So I'm going to go to my layers. I'll go to Window, Layers. And let me just go ahead and resize this. Let me close these guys down a little bit. Now here's my layers. All right, let me close this as well. I'll leave that one open. Now you see that I have the walls. And I also have textures. And whenever you have a texture on an object, it's called the diffuse layer. What I want to do here is I'm going to actually work on this texture, which doesn't exist just yet. So I'm going to double click right here where it says textures. Now your model appears to disappear. What happens is actually you're brought into another document inside of the document you're already in, as you can see here. So we're now in the texture and the model is over here. So if you can't see this, and if you're working on full screen in Photoshop, hit the letter F on your keyboard once or twice to be able to see this tabbed view. You might have to go 3 times, but if you hit F, you'll go from full screen to a version where you can see these tabs. Now, as you can see here, our object actually has no color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this blue right here. I'm going to press Alt or Option and delete. And then this layer will be filled. Let's hop back over to the walls real fast to see what happened. Notice that? Whatever happens on that texture is applied to our object. Let's head back over to that texture, and this time let's give it a yellow fill. We'll hop back over, and it updates right away. It's pretty cool. So you could do all kinds of things like bricks or whatever you want to do on this layer. I'll hop back over here again, and this time we'll add a gradient. So I'm going to click on this little gradient swatch here, and then I'll go up here, and I'm going to choose any of these little crazy gradients here, and click and drag like so. Once again, I'll hop back over, and now we have a cool rainbow wall.